The morning sun cast long shadows across New Terra Colony as Jake Morrison walked his daily patrol route. The frontier settlement buzzed with activity as humans and aliens went about their morning routines. Traders hawked goods from various worlds. Children played in dusty streets and the smell of different species cooking filled the air. Jake had been the colony's security chief for 3 years now. The job was never boring on a world where a dozen different alien species tried to live together. Most days brought small disputes, petty theft, or arguments over trading rights. He preferred it to his old life as a Marine, where problems were solved with weapons instead of words. As he turned the corner near the refugee quarter, Jake heard a sound that made him stop. It was crying, but not human crying. This was deeper, more musical, with clicks and whistles mixed in. He followed the sound to a small alley between two metal buildings. There, huddled against a wall, sat a reptilian female with 3 small children pressed against her sides. Jake recognized her species immediately. Saurid. They were uncommon in this part of the galaxy, and he had never seen any on New Terra before. The female was tall, about 7 feet, with green-scaled skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Her large eyes were a brilliant gold color, now filled with tears that ran down her long snout. The children were much smaller, no bigger than human kids, with the same green scales but brighter colors mixed in. Jake approached slowly. Most aliens were nervous around humans, especially former soldiers like him. His size and scars made him look dangerous even when he tried to appear friendly. "Hello," he said softly in Standard Galactic, the common language used for trade and diplomacy. "Are you all right?" The female looked up at him with those golden eyes. She studied his face for a long moment, then his security uniform. When she spoke, her voice was heavily accented and broken. "You are human, yes?" "Security human?" "Yes, I'm Jake Morrison. I'm the security chief here. What's your name?" "I am Zephyra, of the Brightscale clan." She stood up, keeping the children behind her. Even standing, she had to look down at Jake. "My children are Kex, Nira, and Zolt." Jake nodded to each child as she spoke their names. The oldest one, Kex, glared at him with suspicious eyes. The middle child, Nira, peeked out from behind her mother with curious looks. The smallest, Zolt, was barely visible, clinging to Zephyra's leg. "What brings you to New Terra, Zephyra?" Her golden eyes filled with tears again. "Our world is gone, destroyed in the war between the hegemony and the Republic. We escaped, but barely. My mate, She stopped, unable to continue. Jake felt a familiar pain in his chest. He had seen too many war widows, both human and alien. "I'm sorry for your loss. We have been traveling for many months, ship to ship, station to station. No one wants saurids. They say we are dangerous, that we eat meat and fight too much, but we only want safe place for children to grow." "How did you end up here?" "Trader ship brought us. Captain said New Terra takes refugees, gives them chance to start new life, but..." She gestured around the alley. "No one will rent to us. No one will give us work. My credits are almost gone." Jake looked at the small family again. The children were thin, their scales dull from poor nutrition. Their clothes were patched and worn. It was clear they had been living rough for a while. "There's a refugee center in the colony. They provide temporary housing and food assistance." Zephyra shook her head sadly. "We tried. They say no room for large family. Say saurid children need special care they cannot provide. Is true, but we tried to make do." Jake frowned. The refugee center was supposed to help everyone, regardless of species. He made a mental note to speak with the director about this. "What do you need? How can I help?" What happened next shocked Jake to his core. Zephyra suddenly dropped to her, knees in front of him, pressing her forehead to the dusty ground. The children looked terrified but copied their mother's position. "Please, human Jake Morrison, I beg you with all my heart. Take my children. Raise them as your own." Jake stepped back, confused and alarmed. "What? I don't understand." Zephyra raised her head but stayed on her knees. "In our culture, when parent cannot care for children, they must find stronger family to take them. You are human. Humans are known across galaxy for taking in lost children, any species. Stories say human families grow by choice, not just by birth. Zephyra, I can't just take your children. There are laws, procedures. I know you are good human. I watched you for 3 days. You help old tentacled traitor when young humans mock him. You give food to hungry insectoid family. You stop fight between drunk crystalline miners without violence. You have kind heart. Jake felt overwhelmed. He was a bachelor, lived alone, knew nothing about raising kids, especially alien ones. The very idea was crazy. Your children need you. They need their mother. No, Zephyra said firmly. They need future. They need someone who can give them education, safety, chance to become more than refugees. I am dying, human Jake. What do you mean dying? Saurid females cannot live long without life mate, is biological truth. When mate dies, female has maybe 1 year before body shuts down. I feel it already starting. Who will care for my babies? When I am gone? Jake stared at her, processing this information. If what she said was true, these children would be orphans soon no matter what happened. Even if I wanted to help, I don't know anything about Saurid children. What they eat, how they learn, what they need. I will teach you everything. I will stay close, help with transition. When my time comes, you will be ready. She looked at him with desperate hope. Please, Jake Morrison, save my children. Let them have chance at real life. The oldest child, Kex, suddenly spoke up in broken standard. Galactic. We be good children. We not cause trouble. Please give us chance. Jake looked at the small family kneeling in the dust and felt something break inside his chest. These weren't just refugees or aliens. They were a mother begging for her children's lives and kids who needed someone to believe in them. He didn't know how he would make it work. He didn't know if it was even legal. But looking into Zephyra's golden eyes, he knew he couldn't walk away. Get up, all of you. We need to talk about this properly. Jake spent the next 3 days learning more about Saurids than he ever thought possible. The colony's library computer had basic information, but most of what he needed came from talking with Zephyra herself. She met him every morning at the small cafe near the market, bringing the children with her. Saurid children are not like human children, Zephyra explained on the second day. They need warmth, much warmth. Your world is cold for us, also they need special minerals in food or they get sick. Jake took notes on his tablet. What kind of minerals? Calcium, iron, zinc, but also things your world may not have. Crystalline. Dust from our home caves. Purple salt from our ocean beds. Without these, their scales get weak, their bones break easy. We can get supplements from the trading ships, Jake said. What else? Zephyra watched her children playing nearby. They were chasing each other around the tables, making happy, clicking sounds. They need pack structure. In our culture, children learn from all adults, not just parents. They need to feel safe in group. Jake noticed how the 3 children always stayed close together. Even when playing, they formed a tight circle, watching each other's backs. What about education? Learning. Saurids learn by doing, by watching, by copying. We do not learn from books like humans do. Children watch adults work, then try themselves. They learn best when they can use their hands. On the 3rd day, Jake brought Dr. Lisa Harper with him. She was the colony's xenobiologist, an expert on alien life forms. Jake had worked with her before on cases involving non-human species. This is fascinating, Dr. Harper said after listening to Zephyra explain Saurid biology. I've read about your species but never met one in person. Your children's temperature regulation is completely different from humans. Yes, Zephyra nodded. Human children can play in your cool air. My children get sleepy, move slow. They need warm places to be active and learn. Dr. Harper made her own notes. What about their growth patterns? How long do they stay children? Until 15 of your years, maybe 16. Then they become adults, very quickly. But first 10 years are most important. This is when they learn who they are, where they belong. Jake watched the children as the adults talked. Kex, the oldest, was teaching Nira how to stack small stones in a pattern. Little Zolt tried to copy but kept knocking the stones over. Instead of getting angry, Kex patiently showed him again and again. "They're good kids," Jake said. "Yes, but they have seen too much death, too much fear. They need time to heal, to learn that world can be a safe place again." That afternoon, Jake went to see Director Paul Martinez, the colony's administrator. Martinez was a thin, nervous man who worried about everything. His office was full of papers and regulations books. "Absolutely not," Martinez said before Jake even finished explaining. "Cross-species adoption is against colony policy. We can't set that kind of precedent." "What precedent? Helping orphaned children?" "These aren't orphaned children, Morrison. They have a mother, and even if they didn't, we have procedures. Refugee Services handles alien families. Refugee Services turn them away. They're living in an alley." Martinez shifted uncomfortably. "That's not my fault. The refugee center has limited resources. We can't accommodate every species' special needs." Jake felt his temper rising. "So, we just let them starve?" "No one's starving. They can apply for transport to a saurid colony world. There are several in this sector. Zephyra researched those worlds. They're overcrowded, dangerous. Resources are scarce. Her children would have no future there. That's not our problem, Morrison. New Terra Colony has its own citizens to worry about." Jake leaned forward. "What if I told you there's a legal way to do this?" Martinez frowned. "What do you mean?" "I've been reading the Galactic Refugee Protection Act. Section 847 allows for emergency guardianship when a refugee's life is in immediate danger. Zephyra is dying, Martinez. Her species can't survive long without a mate. When she dies, those children will be truly orphaned. Emergency guardianship is temporary. It doesn't mean adoption. It's a start. It gives us time to work out the details legally." Martinez pulled up the law on his computer screen. He read it carefully, his frown deepening. "This is very irregular, Morrison. The Council won't like it." "The Council doesn't have to like it. They just have to follow galactic law." "And what about you? You're a bachelor. You live alone. You work dangerous hours. How exactly do you plan to raise 3 alien children?" Jake had been thinking about this. "I have savings. I can modify my living quarters for their needs. The colony has schools, medical facilities. Dr. Harper can advise on their special requirements." "This is insane," Martinez muttered. "Do you have any idea what you're getting into?" "Probably not. But those kids need help now, not after we've spent months debating regulations." Martinez was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed. "I'll need documentation. Medical reports on the mother's condition, statements from the children, character references for you, and you'll need to pass a fitness evaluation." "I can get all of that. Morrison, I'm not doing this because I think it's a good idea. I'm doing it because you're right about the law, but if this goes wrong, if there are problems, it's on your head." Understood. That evening, Jake met Zephyra and the children at his apartment. It was small, just 2 rooms, but it was warm and clean. The children looked around with wide eyes, touching everything carefully. "This is where you live?" Nira asked in her broken standard galactic. "Yes. It's not much, but it's home." Zephyra nodded approvingly. "Is good space, clean, safe. Children could be happy here." "There's something I need to tell you," Jake said. "I talked to the colony administrator. There's a way to make this legal, but it will take time, and there will be people who don't like it." "What kind of people?" "People who think different species shouldn't mix. People who are afraid of change. Some might try to cause trouble for us." Zephyra's golden eyes grew sad. "We have faced such people before. Is why we left last 3 colonies. This is different. This is our home now. I won't let anyone drive you away." Little Zolt tugged on Jake's pants leg. When Jake knelt down, the child whispered something in Saurid language. "What did he say?" Jake asked. Zephyra smiled, the first real smile Jake had seen from her. "He said you smell like safety. In our culture, that is highest compliment, child. Can give adult." Jake felt something warm spread through his chest. Looking at the 3 children in his small apartment, He realized his life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. "Tomorrow we start the paperwork," he said. "Tonight, let's figure out how to make this place work for everyone." 2 weeks later, Jake's apartment looked completely different. Heat lamps hung from the ceiling in every room. Special bedding covered the floors where the children liked to sleep together in a pile, the way young Saurids did naturally. The kitchen had new equipment for preparing the mineral-rich foods they needed. Tony Rodriguez, the colony's maintenance chief, wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished installing the last heating unit. "This should keep the place warm enough for them," he said. "But your electric bill is going to be huge." "Worth it," Jake replied, watching Zolt play happily on the warm floor. The little Saurid had been sluggish and quiet when the apartment was cooler. Now he was active and curious about everything. Tony's wife Maria had been helping too. She arrived that afternoon with a bag full of children's clothes she had modified to fit Saurid bodies. "The arms are longer and I added space for their tails," she explained. "Growing kids need clothes that fit right." "Thank you, Maria. I don't know how to repay you. You're doing something good here, Jake. That's payment enough." The legal paperwork had gone through faster than expected. Jake was now the official temporary guardian of all 3 children. Zafira had moved into a small room in the same building, close enough to help but far enough to let Jake learn to be a parent. The first real test came when it was time to enroll the children in school. Jake walked with them to the colony's education center where they met Principal Betty Clark. She was a kind woman in her 50s who had taught human children for most of her life. "I'll be honest, Mr. Morrison," she said. "We've never had Saurid students before. Our teachers don't know their learning patterns or social needs." "Zafira has been teaching me," Jake said. "They learn by watching and doing, not by sitting and listening to lectures. That could work in our workshop classes. We have metalworking, electronics, farming labs. But what about basic subjects like math and language?" Nira, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I learn numbers from watching trade deals. I learn words from listening to many species talk." Principal Clark smiled. "That's a good start. We'll try them in mixed classes and see how they do." The CEO first day of school was harder than Jake expected. He walked with the children to their classes, but within an hour he got a call to come back. Kex had gotten into a fight with another student. Jake found Kex sitting in the principal's office with a bloody nose and torn clothes. The other boy, a human child named Bobby, had a scratch on his arm. "What happened?" Jake asked. "The human boy said bad things about our mother," Kex said angrily. "He said she was monster, that we should go back where we came from." "Kex, you can't hit other children even when they say mean things. In Saurid culture, family honor must be defended," Kex replied stubbornly. Principal Clark looked concerned. "Mr. Morrison, I understand cultural differences, but we can't have fighting in school." Jake knelt down to Kex's level. "Listen to me. Humans handle insults differently than Saurids. We use words to defend ourselves, not fists. Can you try to learn the human way?" Kex was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "I will try, but if someone hurts Nira or Zolt, I will still fight." "Fair enough, but next time come get a teacher first." Word of the fight spread quickly through the colony. That evening, Jake received a visit from 3 angry parents. "We don't want those aliens in school with our children," said one woman. "They're dangerous. Look what that boy did to Bobby." "Kex is 8 years old and was defending his family's honor," Jake replied calmly. "Bobby called his mother a monster." "She is a monster," another parent said. "Those things eat meat. They have claws and fangs. What if they attack our kids?" "Saurids are omnivores, just like humans. And those claws are for climbing, not fighting. Your children are perfectly safe." The argument continued for 20 minutes before Jake finally closed the door on them. But he knew this wouldn't be the end of it. The next few weeks brought more challenges. Nira excelled in her technical classes but struggled with reading. Saurids processed written language differently than humans. Jake spent hours each evening, helping her practice using picture books and simple stories. Zolt adapted quickly to human games and made friends with younger children who didn't care that he looked different, but he missed his mother and would cry for her at night. Jake learned to comfort him by making the soft clicking sounds that Zephyra had taught him. The biggest challenge was Kex. The oldest child felt responsible for protecting his siblings and saw every difficulty as a threat. When a teacher spoke sharply to Nira for not understanding an assignment, Kex bristled and showed his teeth, a saurid warning display. "You're scaring people," Jake explained to him later. "Humans don't understand what that means." "Good," Kex said. "They should be scared if they hurt my family. But we're trying to fit in here. We want people to accept us. Why should we change for them? Why can't they learn about us?" It was a fair question, and Jake didn't have a good answer. Over dinner that night, he brought it up with Zephyra. "Kex is right," she said. "But he is also young. In time, he will learn that sometimes we must bend to survive." "Is that what you're doing? Bending to survive?" "No, Jake Morrison. What I am doing is giving my children chance to grow strong. When they are adults, they can choose to be more saurid or more human. But first, they must have chance to become adults." One evening, Jake came home from work to find all three children huddled together on their sleeping pile, looking upset. Nira had tears on her scaled cheeks. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Kids at school say you don't really love us," Nira whispered. "They say you only keep us because government pays you money." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. "Come here, all of you." The three children gathered around him on the couch. Jake put his arms around them, careful of their spines and tails. "Listen to me very carefully. I don't get paid anything for taking care of you. The government doesn't give me money. I spend my own money on heating bills and special food and clothes. Do you know why?" They shook their heads. "Because you're my family now. Families take care of each other because they love each other, not because they get paid. When Zolt has nightmares, I wake up to comfort him because I love him. When Nira struggles with reading, I help her because I love her. When Kex gets in trouble at school, I stand up for him because I love him." "But we're not really your children," Kex said quietly. "We're just aliens you're helping." Jake pulled them closer. "Family isn't just about blood or being the same species. Family is about choosing to care for each other every day. I choose you three, and you can choose me too if you want." Little Zolt looked up at him with bright golden eyes. "I choose you, Papa Jake." The word hit Jake like a physical blow. In all his planning and worrying about legal papers and heating bills, he hadn't thought about what it would feel like to actually be called Papa. "I choose you too," Nira said softly. Kex was quiet for a long time. Finally, he pressed his scaly head against Jake's shoulder. "I choose you, Papa Jake, and I will try to be better human-style brother." That night, after the children were asleep in their warm pile, Jake sat on his small balcony looking up at the stars. His life had changed completely in just a few weeks. He was now responsible for 3 young lives, dealing with prejudice and challenges he had never imagined. But as he listened to the soft breathing and clicking sounds from inside, he realized he had never been happier. He had found his family among the stars. The warning klaxon started blaring at dawn. Jake jerked awake and checked his security alert device. A ship was approaching New Terra Colony, requesting permission to land. The message was in saurid language. Within hours, a large rescue vessel touched down at the colony's main landing pad. The ship was decorated with the symbols of the Saurid Refugee Council, a group that helped displaced families find new homes. Jake watched from his office window as dozens of Saurids emerged from the ship, their scales gleaming in the morning sun. The ship's captain was a massive Saurid male named Commander Thektar. He stood nearly 8 feet tall with dark green scales, marked by battle scars. His golden eyes held the hard look of someone who had seen too much war. "I am here for the Brightscale family of Zephyra," he announced to Director Martinez. "We have come to take them to safety." Jake felt his stomach drop. He hurried home to warn Zephyra and the children, but they had already heard the news. The whole colony was talking about the Saurid rescue ship. "What does this mean?" Nira asked nervously. She was working on homework at the kitchen table, her scales pale with worry. "It means we have choices to make," Zephyra said quietly. She looked older than usual, tired and thin. Her condition was getting worse each day. Commander Thektar visited that afternoon. He had to duck to fit through Jake's doorway, and his presence filled the small apartment. The children pressed close to Jake, intimidated by the large warrior. "Zephyra of Bright Scale, I bring greetings from the refuge world of Saros Prime," he said in perfect standard galactic. "Your clan brothers have sent me to bring you and your younglings home." "This is our home now," Zephyra replied calmly. "Commander." Thektar looked around the apartment with obvious disapproval. "This is no place for Saurid younglings. They need to be with their own kind, learning proper ways. They need Saurid teachers, Saurid traditions, Saurid futures." "They are learning," Jake said. "They're in school, they have friends, they're part of this community." The commander's golden eyes fixed on Jake with clear hostility. "Human, you do not understand what you have done. These children belong with Saurids. You are keeping them from their heritage, their destiny." "Their destiny is whatever they choose it to be," Jake replied firmly. "You speak of choice, but what choice do younglings have? They are too young to understand what they lose by staying here. In 10 years, when they are grown, they will know nothing of Saurid ways. They will be neither human nor Saurid, belonging nowhere." Keck suddenly stepped forward. "We belong here, with Papa Jake and Mama Zephyra." Commander Thektar's expression softened slightly when he looked at the boy. "Young warrior, I understand your loyalty to this human. He has shown you kindness. But kindness is not enough. You need to learn the ways of your ancestors to understand the strength of the Saurid people." "I am learning strength," Keck said stubbornly. "Papa Jake teaches me. Human strength is different from Saurid strength. Come with me to Saros Prime. Learn what it means to be truly Saurid. Then, when you are grown, you can choose." That evening, Jake found Zephyra sitting alone on the balcony, staring at the stars. Her breathing was labored and her scales had lost much of their shine. "How long do you have?" he asked gently. "Maybe 2 months, perhaps 3 if I am lucky." She turned to look at him. "Commander Thektar is not wrong, Jake. On Saros Prime, my children would grow up knowing their culture, their language, their history. But would they be happy? Happy is not always most important thing. Sometimes belonging is more important than happiness." "Do you really believe that?" Zephyra was quiet for a long time. "I don't know anymore. When I first asked you to take them, I thought human families would be better for their futures. Humans have good schools, safe worlds, opportunities. But now I wonder if I was selfish, trying to give them advantages at cost of their identity." Inside the apartment, Jake could hear the children talking in low voices. They were speaking Saurid language, which Zephyra had been teaching them alongside their human education. "What are they saying?" he asked. "They are arguing about what to do. Kex wants to stay with you. Nira is curious about Saros Prime but afraid to leave her friends. Zolt just wants everyone to stop being sad." The next day, Commander Thektar brought 2 young Saurid adults to meet the children. They were roughly the same age as human teenagers, with bright scales and confident smiles. "These are Zaktor and Miranel," he explained. "This is what healthy, Saurid younglings look like when they grow up among their own kind. Strong, proud, knowing their place in the universe." Jake had to admit the young Saurids were impressive. They spoke eloquently about their lives on Saros Prime, their training in traditional arts, their plans for the future. They made the colony's limited opportunities seem small by comparison. Nira was fascinated. "You really learned to pilot ships and hunt crystal beasts?" "All Saurid youth learn these things," Zaktor said proudly. "It is our birthright." "What about human things? Do you learn about other species?" Miranel shrugged. "Some. But why would we need to? Saurids are strong enough to stand alone." Jake noticed how the young Saurids looked at him with barely concealed disdain. To them, he was just another alien who didn't understand their superior culture. That night, the family held a long discussion. Commander Thektar had given them 3 days to decide. The children would either come with him to Saros Prime, Or, he would leave without them, but he made it clear he thought staying was a mistake. "I want to see the crystal beasts," Nira admitted, "and learn to pilot ships, but I also want to finish my electronics course here." "I want to stay with Papa Jake," Zolt said simply. "He makes me feel safe." Kex was torn. "Commander Thektar says I could become a warrior on Soros Prime, a real Sorid warrior, but Papa Jake needs me to help protect our family here." Jake listened to them debate, his heart breaking. He could see the appeal of the Sorid world. The children would have opportunities there that New Terra Colony couldn't provide. They would grow up strong and confident in their identity. But he also saw how much they had grown in the past months. They were becoming something new, something that bridged two worlds. Was that good or bad? He honestly didn't know. Zephyra watched the discussion with sad eyes. "Tomorrow we will have ceremony," she announced. "Traditional Sorid ceremony of choosing. Each child will decide their path according to our ancient ways." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means the choice must be theirs alone, not mine, not yours, not Commander Thektar's. Tomorrow my children will choose who they want to become." Jake nodded, though his chest felt tight with fear. After tomorrow, his family might be scattered across the galaxy. The thought of losing them was almost unbearable. But he knew Zephyra was right. The children deserved to choose their own futures, even if it meant breaking his heart. The ceremony took place in the colony's main square at sunset. Word had spread throughout New Terra, and hundreds of colonists gathered to watch. Some came out of curiosity, others to support Jake's family, and a few to see the Sorids leave, once and for all. Dr. Harper had helped Zephyra prepare the traditional setup. Colorful stones formed a circle on the ground, each representing a different path in life. Ancient Sorid symbols were painted on banners that fluttered in the evening breeze. Jake stood with the crowd, his hands shaking slightly. He had spent the morning with each child, telling them he would love and support them no matter what they chose. But inside, he was terrified of losing them. Commander Thektar stood opposite Jake, flanked by his crew members. His expression was confident. He clearly expected the children to choose the Sorid way. Zephyra moved slowly to the center of the circle. Her condition had worsened in the past few days, and she needed Dr. Harper's help to stay upright. But her voice was strong as she began speaking in ancient Sorid language. "She's explaining the ceremony," Dr. Harper whispered to Jake. "Each child will walk the circle and stop at the stone that represents their choice. The red stone means staying. Here, the blue stone means going to Soros Prime." Kex was the first to enter the circle. At 9 years old, he was the leader among his siblings. His choice would influence the others. The crowd fell silent as he walked slowly around the stones. He stopped in front of the blue stone that represented the Sorid world. Commander Thektar smiled with satisfaction. But then Kex kept walking. He completed the full circle and stopped at the red stone that meant staying on New Terra. "I choose this world," he said in clear Standard Galactic, his voice carrying across the square. "I choose the human who teaches me that strength comes from protecting those who are weaker, not just from being the strongest. I choose the family. That includes anyone willing to love and be loved." Commander Thektar's face darkened with anger. "You are making a mistake, young warrior. You will regret this choice when you are older." "Maybe," Kex replied calmly. "But it is my mistake to make." Nira entered the circle next. She was more nervous than her brother, her scales pale with uncertainty. She walked around the stones twice, stopping at each one to think. Finally, she chose the red stone as well. "I want to learn about crystal beasts and ship piloting," she said. "But I also want to study human electronics and alien mathematics. Commander Thektar says I cannot do both. But Papa Jake says I can learn anything I want to learn. I choose the place where I can become everything I dream of being." Little Zolt ran into the circle without hesitation. He was too young to fully understand the ceremony, but he knew what he wanted. He went straight to the red stone and hugged it like it was a person. "I stay with Papa Jake and Mama Zephyra," he announced. "They make me happy. Happy is important too." Commander Thektar stared at the 3 children in disbelief. This is impossible. They are too young to understand what they are giving up. They understand perfectly, Zephyra said weakly. They are choosing love over tradition, growth over comfort, hope over fear. These are not childish choices. These are the choices of wise hearts. You have filled their heads with human nonsense, the commander accused. They think emotions matter more than heritage. No, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Principal Clark stepping forward. They think both matter. That's why they're choosing a place where they can honor their heritage while building something new. More colonists began speaking up. Tony Rodriguez talked about how Kex had helped him fix a broken water pump using Saurid climbing skills. Maria mentioned how Nira had taught human children to weave patterns the Saurid way. Even some of the parents, who had initially opposed the family, expressed support. Commander Thektar listened to the testimonials with growing confusion. I do not understand you humans. Why do you care so much about alien children? Dr. Harper stepped forward. Because that's what humans do. We expand our definition of family to include anyone who needs one. It's not about species or biology. It's about choice and love. But they will lose their Saurid identity, the commander insisted. Will they? Zephyra asked softly. Kex still honors his ancestors when he protects his siblings. Nira still follows Saurid learning traditions when she works with her hands. Zolt still makes Saurid comfort sounds when he is happy. They are not losing their identity. They are growing it. Commander Thektar studied the three children for a long moment. They stood together near the red stone, holding hands with Jake and Zephyra. Despite everything, they looked happy and confident. Very well, he said finally. But I want to see how this experiment works. I will return in 1 year to check on their progress. You're welcome any time, Jake replied. We have nothing to hide. The crowd began to disperse as the ceremony ended. Many colonists stopped to congratulate Jake and the children. Some apologized for their earlier hostility. Others offered help with anything the family might need. As the sun disappeared behind the horizon, Jake found himself alone with his family in the circle of stones. Zephyra was exhausted from the ceremony, but she smiled as she watched her children play around the colorful rocks. Thank you, Jake Morrison, she said quietly. You have given my children something I never could. What's that? Choice. Freedom, to become whoever they want to be, instead of just what others expect them to be. 3 months later, Zephyra passed away peacefully in her sleep. The whole colony attended her funeral, including Commander Thektar, who had returned as promised. The children grieved deeply, but found comfort in their expanded family of colonists who had come to love them. 6 months after that, Jake was promoted to Colonial Defense Coordinator. His success in building bridges between species had impressed the colonial government. His new job involved helping other refugee families integrate into colony life. The apartment had been expanded to include Zephyra's old room. The walls were covered with pictures of family adventures, school achievements, and new friendships. Heat lamps still warmed every room, but now they also heated spaces for other alien families that Jake helped settle. On quiet evenings, Jake would sit on his balcony and watch his 3 children play in the courtyard below. Kex was teaching human children Saurid climbing techniques. Nira was building a small robot with parts she had learned to make in both human and Saurid workshops. Zolt was simply running around making happy clicking sounds, surrounded by friends of 6 different species. Other colonists often stopped by to ask Jake's advice about alien customs or to bring their own children to play with his. The apartment had become a gathering place for anyone who needed help understanding each other across species lines. One evening, as Jake tucked the children into their sleeping pile, Nira looked up at him with bright golden eyes. Papa Jake, are we really different from other families? Jake thought about the question seriously. Yes, we're different. We're made up of different species. We have different traditions. We speak different languages at home. Is that bad? No, sweetheart. That's what makes us special. We prove that family isn't about looking the same or coming from the same place. Family is about choosing to take care of each other every single day. Zolt yawned and curled up against his siblings. I like our family. Me too, Kex mumbled sleepily. Me. 3, Nira added with a giggle. As Jake turned off the lights, he reflected on how much his life had changed since that morning when he found a desperate alien mother in an alley. He had started with the simple goal of helping 3 orphaned children. Instead, he had discovered that love really could cross any boundary, bridge any difference, and create families in the most unexpected ways. Outside his window, the stars shone down on New Terra Colony, where humans and aliens lived together in an imperfect but hopeful peace. And in one small apartment, a former Marine and 3 young Saurids proved every night that the universe was big enough for all kinds of families.